Okay, we'll pick it back up. I just wanted to make sure this gets on that hacked Instagram. Okay, so the dyke aspect is what these women were willing to do to other women and how evil these white nationalist men are. And these are American men. Don't forget, this compound was American men, white, and white fucking terrorist Russians that were rejects and rebelled and attacked Russia. The women treated the Mexican drug cartel, dyke women in this compound that were not allowed to live in the compound. They went and came. That's a designated reason for that. But it's also because of race. It was all white. That whole fucking area is all white. Okay, you'll notice, but don't go there. I would suggest not to go look around that part of New Hampshire right now. Okay, what they did was they pimped the women. There was a major aspect to these women of just downright, without any soul in their body, they have no soul, pimping and killing and brutalizing other women. They're so mentally ill, these dyke women that worked, because they're dead, that worked for this compound, that they would kill other women themselves, pimp them, and treat them like the worst man who's a pimp that they might have ever known. They turned around and did it to other women. I hope you follow me. We'll get into detail of people like that later. That's why I call them the dyke word. Okay, they're very sick and they're dead. And that's as sick as you get. You start doing that shit to other fucking women when you're a woman. Okay, and that's all they did, along with their designated stuff when they came and go, which was everything to do with the Russian military navy. Okay. They also had women that are dead that were straight. They brought in a few of they weren't quite prostitutes, but they were. One of their positions was to be a prostitute. They were pimped and ordered around by those few drug cartel dyke women, and they would come in and rent really cheap old apartment units. And the women who rented them didn't really own anything, but pretended to own. And those women who rented to them, the sort of prostitutes of these Latina pimp women, those women are dead. And they were hardened white nationalists, all in their 60s. So everybody's age, everybody's position. I mean, they don't miss a beat. Check. They had women in their senior years. They had everything. Okay. The whole compound, for the most part, is dead. They still have some ones walking around dazed and confused, but these special ops know what they're doing. The compound in New Hampshire is shut down. There's nobody left alive. These men, this Russian man with his American men in his house that worked with all this flat screen TVs and serious military gear that was snuck and smuggled out of Russia, stuffed in a house in New Hampshire, they were so deadly. They did the same thing. They would chop up bodies. The Russian man, the military man, did this. Yeah, and this makes the guys from Russia, when I talk about this, it's okay to talk about it, but it makes them furious because they're Russian military, okay? And it's so atrocious to have military members from your country chopping people up with a knife, chopping their arms off and stuff, chopping their legs up. You can only understand, right, why the Russian military is so furious at the ones that came here and did that and stole the gear, and then kept saying the whole time, they kept saying that they were Russian military. Russian military does not chop up people, dude. All right? There's evidence if you need a lot of evidence to this. I hope that people don't need that. Russian military has never practiced in their boot camp and in their training or any of their high-tech centers how to chop up bodies. I am concerned after what has happened that people think Russians chop up bodies, and that's why the good guys need to correct that at some point. There will be more communication, and at the end of the day, I know that the public won't be thinking Russian military chops up bodies, but right now, I understand there's fear. No, the Russian military doesn't chop up bodies. Lavrov does not have a whole bunch of military guys around him who chop up bodies. Okay, the military members who did that were the Saudi Arabian, the United States enlisted military. They did that here. The evil US guys fucking totally did that here, and they're on film doing it. And these rejects from Russia chopped up bodies. Because Russia's a foreign country, the US public is more apt to think Russian military chops up bodies, where when a US officer comes and says to you, hey, no, we don't chop up bodies, these guys that were cooping did that, you'll believe them. But since you're dealing with a foreign military, you think, oh my God, they all chop up bodies. No, they don't. They don't all chop up bodies, okay? It was so gruesome what they fucking tried to do in the United States. Okay, so he's dead. The man that was carrying on with all the dismemberment and his group of men around him, they're all dead. The compound's down. And while he was doing that, he had all these houses right next door to him. Instead of tunnels like here, they had them under the ground. But instead of like carved out in the walls like here, they just walked across the yard. And they would leave all the TVs on. So the house right across the driveway from the house where he was at, all the TVs would be on, running, because the TVs have to be on, blasting loud, as a matter of fact, at a certain volume, to have this equipment be completely optimal. And then while that was going on, he would have his other flat screen with that funny screen with the funny colors, working on that bay, that port area. He did that. That was for his fleet. Okay, so I'm getting my green light to stop talking about that compound. It's not danger, but there's so much to discuss. The compound's down, okay? All these people I just told you about are dead. But there's still people running around in that compound because it's spread for a few miles, a handful of miles. That it's fine. They can listen to this 100 times if that makes them happy. But it's because I need to just not overwhelm the listener. I've said what needs to be said. The Russian military, although they are foreign, do not chop up bodies. I'm sorry that foreign men from Russia confused you. Okay? That was one of the main things I needed to get over, and I needed to get over to the listener in 2 videos, that the New Hampshire compound that handled all this Russian Navy fleet is down. Is down, down, down. It's no more good. Okay, that happened. If you want a timeline, that's important to mention. It went down after New York City, Wall Street attempts with nuclear weapons and all those satellites and all that crap with Japan. The Russian military compound of New Hampshire was officially shut down a couple weeks. It should be on my account when I started popping up the New Hampshire. You can precisely put the dates to that. Okay, so that's what I want the listener at 9 minutes here to understand. And that they had the group of people. There's way more people. We can describe the people. I don't want to miss the listener on all the people, but yes, I'm glad I brought up the brutality of the women that they had with them. It's disgusting and heinous. They're dead. Amen. And the houses, I'm glad that I can bring up the houses. There's a lot of interesting historical points to these houses, but we can't cover this right now. There's more houses we can definitely and shall and well talk about. But the two main houses this bastard had are down. Okay, goodbye.